You can still talk.
I find myself adjusting myself more when I'm on Zoom. It's like looking in a mirror, I'm like, ooh, ooh, oh. It's like, okay. Need to get past that. All right, 10 o'clock. Is everybody ready? I think we'll start. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Few things, we will be recording this webinar. Please mute yourself and make sure you're on mute. I'm gonna introduce our speaker today and do a Q&A for her one-on-one, just two of us, have her talk about NAMI, and then hopefully we'll have some time for questions at the end. The questions I hope will be at, we'll be able to do, say them out loud. If not, we'll have to go to chat, but hopefully we can just do that at the end and just have people say their questions out loud. My name is Heidi Lundquist. I work at Morton College in Cicero, Illinois, and that's pretty much probably all you need to know about me. I'm excited for our guest today, Teri Ladder. Teri, if you want to flag or wave a little bit.
Oh, okay.
I'm weird. I do that all the time. I forget your names are on there too. So thank you so much. Teri is the state program director for NAMI, and NAMI is National Alliance on Mental Illness. And like I said, we're just gonna ask some questions. Teri, would you like to add anything to your introduction?
No, I think at some point you're going to ask me what I do. I'll go ahead and talk about it then. How's that?
That sounds great. Okay, good.
Okay.
Good. So first of all, what is NAMI?
Okay, so as you mentioned, Heidi, NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. I represent the Illinois chapter of that organization. And we are the country's largest grassroots organization that is devoted to improving the lives of those who are living with a mental health condition and the lives of their families, because families are also very impacted when someone has mental illness. NAMI operates in 48 states, and I can't tell you who the two are that don't have organizations. I keep looking and I haven't found them yet. There's 600 affiliates across the country. So here in Illinois, we have 20 affiliates, so that we cover the entire Chicago metropolitan area and the major cities outside of Chicago: Rockford, Peoria, Champaign, the East Metro area near St. Louis. So, you know, we're across the state and across the nation, devoted to just helping these individuals and their families.
And so you've pretty much covered, my next question was, what is NAMI's mission and purpose? And you pretty much covered that.
Sure.
As the state program director, what do you do?
So as the state program director, I am responsible for making sure that all of the programs that we offer that do what I just spoke about are in place. And I am going to go back to the mission. You said I covered it, but let me just talk about how we do that. And that kind of leads into the what I do. So we accomplish our goal of helping individuals and their families who are affected by mental illness through four, I call them pillars. So the first one would be education. The second one would be support. The third one is advocacy. And the fourth one is building awareness. So those are the four methods we use in our goals, to achieve our goals. As the state program director, my responsibility is making sure that we have the people that can do those things. So we have the people in place that can lead support groups. We have the people who can run the education classes that we offer. We have the people that are out there building awareness around mental illness, fighting stigma. I don't get as involved in advocacy, although I do to some extent, in making sure that people who are interested in advocating have some of the tools that they need. So I run training programs. I do train the trainer kind of programs, train the leaders, train the facilitator programs in the state. I help introduce new programs in the state. I work with our affiliates who might be doing things that did not come down from our national organization and help bring them to the other affiliates in Illinois, or bring them to the attention of the national organization and say, hey, look at something that's going on here. You know, this might be worthwhile to be doing across the nation. So that's the kind of role that I'm in. Most of the people that are doing education, support, advocacy, building awareness are all volunteers. We have several of our affiliates are big enough to have some staff, but even there, the people that are delivering the programs are doing it on a volunteer basis. So, you know, I help the affiliates in finding those volunteers and training them, getting them ready to do the kinds of things that we offer.
Wow. Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for being here, because I know.
Oh, absolutely. This is part of building awareness. That's
You're
what
right.
I do.
I'm like, wow, I just couldn't help but think, I'm like, oh my gosh, when does she find time to sleep? But anyway. And so you, again, have covered what types of resources NAMI offers. I know, and I will mention this now, I think it's not a good time. I mean, everybody has a website now, but you guys do have a website, and I think I had it up. It's www.nami.
NAMI, Illinois, spelled out, .org.
Okay. And there's a lot of.
There's a huge amount of information. So even for people who are just trying to understand what's maybe going on with their family member, how to deal with it, there's an enormous amount of information on both our website, namiillinois.org, and the national website, which is nami.org.
Okay.
So there's lots of information directed at both levels of people that we serve. So some of it is for those that are living with mental illness. A lot of that will have to do with, what should you do if you're in crisis? How do you prepare in advance for when you might be in crisis? How do you take care of yourself? What's out there for housing? Housing is a huge issue for people with mental illnesses. Depending on their level of stability, their ability to work, work and housing, which are such critical elements of our lives, can be very challenging for those with a mental illness. And so our website has a lot of information on that, and NAMI is involved in both of those aspects at the hyper local level and at the higher level in terms of legislation to provide those kinds of resources. Also on the websites, there's a lot of information that can help family members. So how do you even try to understand what's going on and what you're seeing? What can you be doing? How do you help a family member who's perhaps already been diagnosed? How do you help them on their path to recovery? These are lifelong illnesses. It's not one and done, except in some very rare cases. If you are diagnosed with one of these illnesses, it's something you're going to be coping with the rest of your life. And so how, as a family member, do we support our loved one who's on this path to recovery? How do we help them when they relapse, when they go back into, when they become episodic again? Those are the kinds of things that you can find on our website. What do you do if your family member is arrested? These illnesses impact the way people behave, right?
Absolutely.
And so when someone is out in public, and I can speak from experience, I have a son with bipolar disorder, and when he's episodic, on the mania end of bipolar, his behavior is pretty darn bizarre.
Wow.
And has led to numerous arrests. And sometimes he falls into the hands of officers who kind of get what might be happening, and other times not. So how do you deal with the justice system? What do you do when your family member's arrested? Those are all the kinds of things that you can find on the website. Just to help you, and that's above and beyond finding out about the actual support groups and classes that we offer, which I can talk about in more depth, when you want me to.
Okay. And I'm just looking at my list of questions in the time. Yeah, why, if you don't mind, talking about the classes. And
Sure. So if you think back to the 4 pillars, we have classes that are education focused. They are the kind of cornerstone of programs that NAMI offers and that NAMI began with are from the education arena. We have a program that's called Family to Family, which is for the family members. And I should mention, all of our programs, regardless of which pillar it falls in, are always peer-led. So family to family classes are taught by people like myself who have a family member living with mental illness. We go through training in order to do it, but a lot of what we bring to the table is also our own life experiences. And the comfort of knowing that when you're in this class, we're not alone.
Yes.
When we talk about statistics a little bit later, you'll find out how not alone we are, even though we feel like that when these illnesses come into our lives. So we have family to family, which is primarily for family members whose loved one is probably 16 years old, sort of at the end of high school, up to, I've had people in my classes who are in their 80s and their family members in their 60s, and they're coming to class because they want to learn more about the illnesses and learn what they're going to need to do to keep their family members safe once they're gone.
Wow. Okay.
We also have a class called NAMI Basics, and that's for people whose family members are younger. We're talking young children up to about the age of 14, 15 years old. It focuses a little more about how you deal with things in the school settings, to get individualized programs for these children. It's a 6-week program. So family to family is 8 weeks long, typically offered in person, although we're doing them virtually these days. Basics can be offered in person, but we also realized that families that are coming because their family member is 10 years old, they're likely to have other kids around. It's hard to leave for 2.5 hours in the evening. That's bedtime, homework time, end of dinner time. And so we've made that program available on demand on the website, on the NAMI.org website, so that mom or dad can take that class when it works for them, after the kids go to bed or while they're in school, when it works for them. The other program we offer is called peer-to-peer, and that is for the individuals living with the illness. So giving them tools on leading their daily lives, on understanding what the illnesses are. That's always kind of at the heart of the education programs. What are these illnesses? What is the nature of them? And we're always stressing, these are not failures in parenting or bad character in the person who has the illness. These are biological illness like diabetes, cancer, a broken leg, although broken leg is kind of a one and done. Some of these others can be more chronic in nature. So we spend a lot of time talking about that. Parents particularly come in with a lot of guilt. What did I do wrong?
Sure.
And
Sure.
we need to help allay those fears, and help them understand they didn't do anything wrong. They're doing the right thing. They're in class. They're trying to understand it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we do on the education side. Oh, I should mention one other that we have, which is called Homefront. And that's for family members of individuals who are in the military or are veterans of military service. And that person is living with a mental illness. Those classes are going to focus a little more on things like PTSD. And we are offering those classes not on demand, but online, because families in the military move so often.
Sure.
So you could start a class in one place and now you get transferred and you got to find where that class is somewhere else. So we offer that one. We're moving towards on demand, but right now it's online at certain times, for those families. As we move into support, we have 2 key groups that we offer. One is called Family Support Group. So as the name suggests, that's for the family members. And there can be variations on those groups, parent support groups. What else have I seen? Suddenly none of the others, but primarily it's a family support group. So family members with other family members. And we have a certain format that we follow. So if you go to a support group in Illinois, and then you move and you start going to a support group in Connecticut, they're pretty much going to look the same, right?
Yeah.
So that's, and the same thing if you go to family in Alaska or in Florida, it's the same program. So we have family support group, and then we have what we call connection recovery support group. And the connection group is for the individuals living with mental illness. In Illinois, since the beginning of COVID, we offer those programs virtually. So NAMI Illinois, I think we went into whatever we called our lockdown in place, whatever we called it, I don't even remember anymore.
Yeah, right.
Like the third week of March in 2020, by April 1st, we had a full roster of a full schedule of online virtual support groups for anybody in Illinois. Wow. You know, whether we had an affiliate where you lived or not.
That's awesome.
And a lot of those are going to continue even when we fully go back to in-person programming, particularly connection, where a lot of people don't have cars.
Yes.
They have social anxiety issues. It's easier for them to be in their safe place, even though we try to create a very safe environment in support groups when we're in different locations, but there's nothing quite like sitting at home with your animals, with your pets. I can't tell you the number of cats and dogs I've gotten to know since COVID started, you know, walking across the screen, sitting on shoulders. So we're going to continue those, even once things are back to being in person.
That's great. Yeah, that's
everywhere. We have a couple of programs that are devoted to building awareness. One of them is called In Our Own Voice. And In Our Own Voice is a program where an individual who is living with a mental health condition will come into an organization. So they may come into one of your libraries at your request and offer I think they're like an hour and a half presentation where they share their story. And let me tell you, some of these stories, you know, you're sitting there with tears, and yet you're seeing this person standing there doing well, sharing their story, to help build awareness of mental illness, to help fight stigma. They look like you and me, Heidi, you know, standing up there telling their story. So that's In Our Own Voice. And that one is particularly for coming to organizations like libraries, churches, police stations, any, you know, moms clubs, you know, whatever it might be. We will go to In Our Own Voice. We will take In Our Own Voice there. Now, I didn't mention schools because we have a different program for schools, and that one is called Ending the Silence. And it was actually grown here in Illinois. NAMI DuPage, down in DuPage County, came up with this program, and it is now a nationwide program. So that's, you know, the program director before me started seeing this, took it to national, and it's across the country now. Wow. Ending the Silence, we go into the schools and we have 3 versions of the program. We have one that's for students, we have one that's for families of the students, and we have one that's for staff. But regardless of the version that you're going to, the setup is pretty much the same. You have one person, again, coming in, telling their story. We try to get people that are, you know, in their 20s, 30s, you know, who are closer to the age of the high school kids. Sometimes we're in middle schools doing this. And then you have what we call the lead presenter. That lead presenter can be another person living with a mental illness, or they can be someone like myself who's a family member. These are help bring awareness to, let's say, the high school kids of what mental illness looks like. You know, they may be experiencing something that they don't quite get. They're afraid to say anything yet. And now they're hearing things where they can recognize what's going on in themselves. And they can now maybe feel more, they are empowered to now go talk to a school counselor, to the school therapist.
Wow. Okay.
So Ending the Silence and In Our Own Voice are really amazing programs that help the community, wherever in the community we're talking about, understand these illnesses. We're just rolling out 2 other programs. One is called, we call it Sisley, sharing your story with law enforcement. That one is more directed at, as you would think from the name, police departments. We've often had people from In Our Own Voice going out to police departments, and now we've kind of tweaked In Our Own Voice to have a strictly have a program that addresses the law enforcement environment, and where the person presenting has a story that involves law enforcement. Here's what it was like when a police officer approached me. Here's what I feel. Here's how I'm going to react, to help the law enforcement understand what they might be facing, what they might be seeing, and how they might respond.
Wow. Wow.
So that's one. The other one is, it's actually two programs that are rolled out similarly to different groups. So the first is called Sharing Hope. This is kind of awareness building, but it's also a program aimed at opening the dialogue in the African American community, where there is even greater stigma associated with mental illness. And so Illinois is one of the pilot states in rolling out Sharing Hope, in going into African American communities with African American leaders from NAMI to open up this dialogue about how do you talk about mental health? How do you talk about it in your family? You know, even within your family, because even there, you know, off limits a lot of times.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
The other community where we are rolling this out is the Latinx community. So that program is called Compartiendo Esperanza, which is sharing hope in Spanish. And same idea, but now the videos we show are in English and Spanish. We're targeting that group where there's a different kind of stigma associated with mental illness. So those two programs, but they're rolling out at the same time, are targeting these two particular groups where we know the issues are different than in the Caucasian environment.
Sure.
And to help, it's not just build awareness, but to help get people talking about it, give them some of the language they may need to then seek help. So those are our programs. Those are the kinds of programs that I'm helping staff across the state.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
And I, as a librarian, I'm like, okay, I think you just gave us some programming ideas. So for anybody,
I hope I did. I really hope I did.
I think we got some ideas.
The group that you serve, the people that are in the community colleges, the 18, 19 years old, 20, 21, they are where that is the age group where mental illness very often first shows up.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Okay.
16 to 24 are the years, the prime years for the manifestation of mental illness.
Wow.
So you are right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of it. Seniors in high school. And think about the changes that your kids that you're serving are going through. You know, your kids, you know, they're probably not living away from home like kids at U of I and Loyola might be, but it's a big change. You know, they've left that cocoon of high school, kids they've known their entire life. They're going into a new environment. They don't know what they may be doing next. They're not quite sure what's up. That can serve as a trigger that can activate, if you will, a genetic component that's already there for mental illness. So, you know, these illnesses, and this wasn't something that was in the questions we were talking about, but just very briefly, you know, mental illness often has these two components, and it kind of has to be the perfect storm that makes them surface. And so you've got the genetic element. I can go back in my family, and we can go back in my husband's family. We can see why my son is ill from a genetic standpoint. But we also know that that very often for those illnesses to manifest takes a trigger. The trigger can be drugs, alcohol. They can be a social experience. They can be an environmental situation. When I say drugs, they can be prescription drugs. Those of you that remember Jane Pauley, who used to be on the Today Show, and then she was with Nightly News, I don't know what, Dateline, you know, a well-known national broadcaster. She took, I want to say it was Benadryl or something for an allergy.
Something so right over the counter.
And it triggered a bipolar episode that she now has to manage. So you never know. Some of our families can tell you exactly what they think the trigger was. And some families are like, I haven't got a clue. But there was probably something that triggered it. And a lot of those triggers happen junior, senior year in high school. What am I gonna do? You know, what's happening? And just think about the peer pressures of alcohol, of drugs, bullying. Bullying is huge, and bullying can certainly be a trigger. How many times have we heard of suicides as a result?
Yes.
You know, we find out later of a lot of bullying. There's a trigger for you.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So yes, you are sitting right in the middle of it. And, you know, any programs that you can do and any things that you can post in your environments, in your libraries, related to mental health awareness, to the message of you're not alone. Because every one of those individuals thinks they're the only one that's dealing with this. And I know that you probably also have a lot of students who are going back to school. They may be in their 40s and 50s, right? So you've got that other demographic in your population there at school. They may be the parents.
Yeah,
They may
right.
be the spouse, the uncle, or they may have the parent. They may be the child of someone living with a mental health condition. I was. You know, but I never quite put it all together, you know, until later in my life. So, you are in such a wonderful position to be able to spread the word, to help enlighten and empower those that you serve about these illnesses, in a non-threatening way.
Okay. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. Cause I didn't really think about that. I don't know but that age group that we're working at with a very critical age group.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That, one of the questions we had, cause I think it ties in very well with that was, right now, does NAMI work in conjunction with existing counseling services on college campuses?
Counseling services in a formal way, no.
Okay.
We don't. What we do on campuses, and it tends to be more the four-year campuses, and I'll explain why in a moment. We have what we call NAMI on campus.
Okay.
Which are clubs that are started on a given campus, run by kids who are living with a mental health challenge, want to be with other kids that are facing these challenges, bringing programs onto the campus. The reason I say we find them more often in the four-year schools is because of the continuity that's necessary to keep the clubs going. So while we've tried sometimes, or we've had students approach us from the community colleges, it's certainly viable, but the continuity can be more of a challenge, you know, when you don't have 3 years of kids behind the senior who's kind of taking the lead. You only have 1 year behind the second year student. So it provides more of a challenge to keep it going, maybe more involvement of a staff member of some sort. What you don't want to do is, my recommendation would be, is you don't necessarily want to put it in the hands of the person that's teaching the psychology class.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
You might be better in the hands of the librarian, who can help you find resources.
Okay.
Who, when the person that's like in charge of programming says, we need to know more about jobs in the mental health field.
Yeah.
You know, the librarians can be the ones that can help do some of the research, help them find that kind of information out, or get them more in contact with the career counseling office that maybe can help them. What you don't want to do is put them in a situation where they're in constant lectures.
Yeah,
About,
right.
This is bipolar, this is anxiety, this is depression. Some of that, yes, but they tend to be more of a sharing environment. So the fact that I said they're more common in the 4-year schools shouldn't deter you from trying to see what you might come up with.
Sure.
We don't have like a set format.
Okay.
If you start to find interest, there's nothing that says it can't be led by the library.
Right. Okay.
You know, a program of the library that meets on a weekly, monthly, whatever basis you want.
Okay, nice.
You know, there's plenty of freedom there, and NAMI is more than willing to help you with that. And where you would most likely find that help, and we haven't talked too much about it, are our affiliates. So you said you're in Cicero. That falls under NAMI Metro Suburban, a very active affiliate that we have out of Oak Park. And they do programs in the Cicero, I'm trying to think of some of the other towns around there. The other one is
like Berwyn.
But anyway, Berwyn, that's what I was trying to think of. You know, they offer programs in those areas. So if you had something you wanted to do, you could go to NAMI Metro Suburban. I'd be more than happy to point you in the right direction. I don't know what other schools are represented here, but would they all be in the Chicago metro area?
No, and I'm gonna interrupt for a minute. The reason too, we ended up, I was ended up not contacting you, but I was directed in your area, and this is for just to mention anybody who's on here, is I explained we cover schools from east to west in Illinois. So we're not we're across the state, and I can't remember like if it's, I don't think it's all of Illinois because I think it's northern. It's like we're
so we have affiliates in Rockford. We have an affiliate in Rockford. We have affiliate in McHenry County. We have NAMI South Suburbs of Chicago. You know, we too are east to west and north to south. And in those locations where you might not find a nearby affiliate, then the state organization can help. Okay. And let me just mention, to find out where an affiliate near you might be, you go to namiillinois.org, and I think on our homepage we say find an affiliate. And I believe you can put in a zip code or a town, and a map's going to come up, and it'll show you where the affiliates are. Okay.
Oh, great. Okay.
And the areas that they cover. So that would be a first place to go. If you got questions, you can come to me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And you are more than welcome if you want to put it on chat or something. You know, you can reach me at Teri, T-E-R-I, as you see my name on there, at namiillinois.org.
And this is horrible. I'm not that familiar with this, so I'm trying to get to chat. There we go.
So it's
all right. So it
Teri at namiillinois.org.
Hold on. Lots of eyes in there.
It's very hard, isn't it? It's 2 I's, 2 L's, another I. Spelling it can be a nightmare. And seeing if you spelled it correctly is even harder.
All right, I'm gonna post it, or I'm gonna put it in chat.
Okay.
I'm hoping that looks right. I think it's right. On that to what you were saying, it just, I guess, pardon me, because I'm curious. Do you know of 1 or 2 schools who have a 4-year campuses in Illinois who have NAMI on campus?
Yeah, and I don't know how active they are at this point because of COVID.
Oh, sure.
Champaign-Urbana, not NAMI, Illinois, not University of Illinois
Okay.
at Champaign-Urbana
Okay.
has one. And I know that NAMI also launched a club was launched at Northwestern.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right.
For either of those, I could get you contacts and find out, what's even going on with them these days.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
I'd be glad to do that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because that might help to talk to them and just kind of see what who does it or how they coordinate it. Okay.
Right.
That's awesome.
Right.
Need resources. It's so helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking at and I'm trying to focus on the time too.
Sure.
So I'm gonna take a minute here.
So maybe if I could, there was one question that wasn't on here that I thought might be something good to address because you see so many kids. And you may see some kids on a very regular basis. There may be some that come to the research librarian with frequency. There may be others you'll never see, right? But what should you be on the lookout for someone who might be dealing with a mental health challenge? I talked about my son who's bipolar. Mania is pretty easy to detect. Psychosis is pretty easy to detect, right? Because it's a rapidity of speech that you can't keep up with. It's psychosis is a total break with reality. So they may be coming in and saying, I understand God is here. He's in the stacks on natural history. I'm going to be talking to him. Don't let anybody come near me. That's psychosis. That needs dealing with immediately. But depression, anxiety is the most prevalent mental illness in the country, with some saying 20% of adults experiencing anxiety in their life. COVID took that number to 53%. Just, people feeling anxious. So, if you were to start to notice change is the biggest way of noticing that something is going on with a given individual. That they start withdrawing, that they're pulling away from activities. Teachers will probably notice that too. Your instructors, professors are seeing that someone who was engaged isn't engaged anymore. Students who are not where they're supposed to be because they're sleeping too much, which is hard to detect in teenagers. I get that. Right. But a change from the norm, or students who aren't sleeping at all. Okay, but still have energy. Big sign that something's happening there. Those are the kinds of changes to be on the lookout for with the population, the people that you see on any kind of a regular basis. Okay. There's a lot more signals, and I'm blanking on some changing in eating habits. Sure. Before my son becomes manic, sort of in that just before time, we often see a dramatic change in eating, from going from hamburgers to being on the raw diet.
Oh my goodness.
And proselytizing about it. Mom, you need to be on it, even though it would probably kill me. No, Mom, you have to do it, and you have to do it with me. That kind of like, where did that come from? We didn't know it the first time. After that, we started to see that that was a sign that something was going on. So any dramatic change, any slide over time or ramping up, are the kinds of things you just kind of want to be taking a look at. And maybe if you know who professors are, checking with them, see if they're seeing something. Okay.
With that, I think too, a big question for me is, what can you do, or what do you do? Do you approach them? How do you approach them?
Yeah.
And I know it's a huge question, because
it is, and it's going to vary, of course, so much from individual to individual. In your situations, I would see, or an instructor, a professor saying, I'm seeing some things that are just making me wonder if you're doing okay.
Okay.
Something going on in your life, you seem a little, whatever it is, seem a little more sad lately, or you seem very withdrawn, or wow, I'm glad to see you participating so much. It's quite a change from before. How's that happened? In a calm manner.
Right.
The other thing you might do is reach out to your counseling office. I'm seeing such and such going on. You're not going to want to say, I'm seeing this and I think you ought to talk to counseling. But, more, I'm seeing something, just kind of opening that door. You might be the trusted person that they might say something to. If they do open up and they say, yeah, I'm really struggling. There's too much on my plate. I don't know how to handle this. I've got this going on at home. Dad just lost his job. I don't know if I can stay in school. You might then say, we've got some people here that might be able to help you with that. And you know who your resources are on campus. I thought so. I just got a message. I see Robert Connor on here. Hi, Rob. I thought that was you. So you might be the bridge that helps them get from where they are to someone that can help. By just opening up, and just gently approaching. If you see behavior that is dangerous, so someone is in the stacks because God is there, and don't let anyone around me, or I need to be here because I'm being followed, and this and that. You either need to call 911 or call your counseling office and have someone come and help, because those situations do not resolve easily and calmly necessarily.
And I think for me, I was thinking instantly, just call the police, but calling the counseling department is equally.
That might be, if there is anything that suggests a threat to themselves, that person, or the others in your environment, that is a 911 call. And, we always recommend, if you are calling the police, that you let them know that you think what's going on may be a mental health issue. And I would highly recommend anybody calling from anywhere in the state, if that's the situation, when you call 911, you ask for a CIT officer. That's a crisis intervention trained officer. They're the ones that know how to de-escalate a situation that might be related to a mental health issue. They know how to address that. They're not going to come in and arrest. They're not going to come with lights and sirens.
Okay.
Which could, someone who says someone's following me and then lights and sirens show up outside the door of the library, that's not going to be good. So you always, in calling to law enforcement right up front, let them know you think this could be a mental health situation. If it's possible, you'd like a CIT officer or whatever they do. Rockford will now send a social worker with a police officer.
Okay. Okay.
So, you know, whatever it is they do, you want them to do it in this case.
Okay.
And let them know right up front. It changes the whole demeanor of the interaction.
Okay. Didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, yeah, we have a couple of minutes if you're, Teri, if you're still good.
I'm still here.
All right. I want to say thank you so much for sharing your personal stories and your work experience. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask? If you can, we're going to take them orally. So if you want to unmute yourself to ask a question, otherwise you can certainly put it in chat.
And Rob, you can tell Joy, Scott now has 4 kids, including twins. Rob was saying his wife would kill him if he didn't ask how we're doing. We're doing fine. Thank you.
Well, God bless him, Teri.
Hi.
That is wonderful news.
Yeah, yeah. And so what it demonstrates, you know, is, yeah, we have this rough situation. A month ago, my son was in the hospital. I was living in an Airbnb in the city, trying to take care of him as he came out from the hospital. But we carry on, right? Our family has learned to manage this. This last situation was an all hands on deck, with the family being, Mom, you need to get down there. Me being like, oh, I don't know. He might be okay. They're like, Mom, no, you know, when it's in your own family, it's a little different. What would you tell somebody else if they came to you with this? Oh, okay, fine. I'll go down. I'll find him. You know, you figure it out. You learn to deal with it. Mark figures it out. He's learning to deal with it. He's in a great treatment program now, best he's ever been in. You figure it out, and here we are, you know, and I've got grandkids. You have other parts of your life. We talk about people first. So my son isn't bipolar. He lives with bipolar disorder. You know, I have Crohn's disease. I'm not Crohn's. I have Crohn's. It's a piece of my life I deal with. But Mark is a lot more than his bipolar. And when he stabilizes, all of that is still there. Right? So you're still, you know, I highly recommend, you know, every one of us that can change this, we should. He's not schizophrenic. He lives with schizophrenia. It's very different.
That was one of the questions we came up in one of our meetings. And if I don't see, okay, I'm going to throw this out then. Yeah. What does NAMI do to get around the stigma of mental illness? And obviously that is a huge one.
Right.
But yeah.
You know, everything we do is geared towards getting rid of stigma. We educate. I mean, I can't tell you the number of people that come into our classes that are ashamed to be there because their child is acting very bizarrely and they know something's wrong, and they may come to us before there's a diagnosis. But it's this stigma of, oh my God, what if it's in our family? I mean, I remember saying to my husband, I said, oh my God, now we're that family that everybody's going, I wonder what went on in their house. I was horrified because I had said that about another family who had 2 sons who died by suicide. I was like, what goes on over there? Now we were that family. And it became my mission in life to not let that be. So our education programs, our terminology, what I just talked about, and I just said 2 people who died by suicide. They did not commit suicide. You commit burglary. You commit murder. You don't commit suicide. You die by suicide. And so those little things make a difference in how these illnesses are perceived. And let me tell you, anybody says anything that has stigma surrounding it, let me tell you, I am there to correct them. Right. I have been there from the minute I took my first family to family class in 2007. I didn't let anybody get away with anything anymore, because the more that people knew, the better it was going to be for my son and the 1 in 5 people in this country who live with a mental health condition in any given year. That's a lot of people. Everybody knows somebody.
That's a
You know,
lot.
if I look at the people on this call right now, and I don't know how many they are, but if there's at least 5 people, one of us is dealing with a mental health situation right now. If we were 20, one of us of the 20 would be dealing with a serious mental illness, bipolar, schizophrenia, major depression, borderline personality disorder, maybe PTSD. That's a lot of people. Think about your campus. Think about all those kids.
And knowing that
1 in 5.
it's this huge stigma. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
If you take your enrollment number and divide, that's wow.
Oh yeah. Every time I fill a class with 30 people, and Rob, I teach it at St. Francis, you know, and I fill that class with people from our community, you know, from maybe 4 towns around. That's 30 more people who've got a family member. And they've got more family members, you know, who are also trying to handle this in their life. You know, one person, how many people does that impact? A lot. Yeah, yeah. The other thing that is really critical for all of us, but particularly I feel, you know, when dealing with those that are living with these mental illnesses, is compassion and being non-judgmental. So that discussion I suggested, Heidi, talking to someone who's you've seen a big change in, it's not what the hell is wrong with you.
Right.
It's I've noticed something and I'm concerned. Is there something going on, you know, that we could maybe help you with? Or so it's the compassion. You know, I always say, you know, we at NAMI, we are the most compassionate people you're going to find, and non-judgmental. Let me tell you, judgment fell out of my life when my son was diagnosed. It was just like I said, it was like, oh crap. Now everybody thinks something's going on in my house. And maybe it was, but that's not the whole story there. So non-judgmental and compassion go a long ways. And I see a comment here. Someone saying, I've been saying this to my son who suffers from major depression, that you're so much more than your illness. Absolutely. That's what we have to remember. And that's why just changing, every time I hear somebody say so-and-so commits suicide, go, you know, really what happened is they died by suicide. They died of depression. They died because of bipolar. You know, the piece that got them was suicide.
Right.
But yeah. So it's a different perspective that we all need to embrace. Every single one of us, you know, my feeling is once you've been exposed to it, once I've talked to you, okay, now your job to go out there and continue the dialogue, continue, you know, change it in yourself if you need to, and change it with those you hear and speak to.
Yeah.
You know?
Like for our, you know, our campus, knowing how common, we don't, there's some awareness, but it needs to increase, and that will be up to me and my fellow librarians. Exactly.
Yeah. And who you talk to, you know, among your peers on campus in terms of the others that are employed on the campus. Yeah, absolutely.
We need to step up.
One of the silver linings of COVID, the bad part is, you know, anxiety went through the roof. One of the good signs, one of the silver linings of that happening is you now had this much greater level of people, more people that now knew what it felt like, right? It didn't feel so good. Excuse me, sorry, I know this is being recorded.
It does. You speak truth.
It's terrible. Depression also skyrocketed. And so now we have this greater universe of people who never thought it was going to touch them, who've experienced it and can have greater compassion for others. So, I'm a silver lining kind of girl. I'm always looking. I mean, the minute Mark became ill, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with this? How am I going to help? When I took the class, I'm like, I'm going to be a teacher. Now I'm an employee. Now we have that greater universe of people who can be more compassionate and not speak in stigmatizing language and not be judgmental of people who are suffering from something that, oh yeah, I remember feeling that way. Yeah, what can I do to help?
Yeah.
That could be
great.
one of the silver linings of
think of
COVID.
that. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, the mental health arena got slammed. I thought I was going to get vacation. No more meetings, no more this. We started talking about, now that we got this lockdown, we can really spend some time strategizing about what we want to do. I have never been so slammed in my life.
I'd heard that from other
My
outlets.
part-time job, it went way over its hours. I was like, and we look back and we go, what the heck were we thinking? Mental health, the country's mental health was dramatically impacted by this. Yeah, but with it comes greater understanding. So that's my silver lining.
That's great. Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm assuming, assuming nobody else had any questions or last minute comments. Teri, any last minute comments? Like I said, you've just been wonderful. You've given us so much.
It's been my pleasure. I feel like I beg, just do what you can now that you've got a little bit of information.
Absolutely.
And you're all librarians. I'm just guessing a few of you are going to go and look up some more information, right? You're going to be researching some stuff. Look at ways you can make a difference on the campus with your kids. Because if we can catch them early enough,
that's a great tip.
You might be able to prevent it from being a bigger challenge than it might be if you catch it when it's earlier.
Okay.
The earlier, the better. The better chance they have of managing it, of keeping it from totally exploding out of control.
That's a great.
So, one of the things we always say at NAMI, you're not alone and you make a difference. So I put it on your doorsteps, your library book covers to make a difference.
Thank you. That's great. That we will. I think we will. Definitely.
I know you will. I mean, you took the first step. You came to us. You asked. So to me, that's always tells me something.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Thank you. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And trust me, we'd come to your campuses. I mean, without a hesitation, I'd be on any of your campuses to talk or to help you bring in some of those programs we spoke about. I'd be there in a flash.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. I think we'll call it a wrap. It's 11 o'clock. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
Want to stop the
Teri.
recording?
I appreciate everything that you said.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. I hope it takes everybody somewhere a step beyond where they were when they got on the call.
Right. And puts responsibility on all of us to pay attention to the people around us. I think that.
Yeah, right.
Key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I lost a sister.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. It always saddens me when I hear that kind of thing.
Yeah, but when you say that, it was really amazing when you said that something triggers it, because high-powered executive making a lot of money, and then her job ended. she retired.
Oh, yeah.
She worked as she started her own business, and then that, her contract ended, and that was a trigger. And she was
Yeah.
62.
Change in identity, loss of
Yeah, and
identity,
she
right?
was 62 years old. I mean, it was crazy.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so
That
I
is
appreciate,
sad.
I appreciate you making that comment.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Anyway.
Yeah. So you have a story to tell.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it's hard. I know it's,
is.
there's
is.
times when I sit in classes when I'm
Mm-hmm.
teaching and suddenly something will just smack me as I'm telling my story, and the tears will come, but we're human. But we're the ones that can help make a difference sometimes. So
Oh, absolutely. But
plain
yeah,
old people, just plain old people.
exactly. Exactly. But I think it's really key to, bring it, make it relevant to the community college community.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
My
they
son was
serve-
19.
Yeah, the colleges that are part of No Rock serve not just the students, but they serve the surrounding community. I mean, it's
Sure. Absolutely. Right.
there are some areas where that's the only library available to the residents.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah,
Right.
and we do actually extend it. The old version of No Rock was Northern Illinois, but we actually extend from one of I think our northernmost college is a college of Lake County. So that's,
sure.
That area. And then we do go all the way down to Southern Illinois. So we're
Do you?
entire state, and we have 3 schools in Missouri.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So, no, I think,
Good.
so it's a
Good.
event.
Well, it's so funny. I just turned 69. And so I was like, well, when I'm 70, I'll probably take my Social Security and, maybe I won't work anymore. And then I was like, well, what will I do? I love learning. I was like, well, maybe I'll see where I can audit classes, or maybe I'll go back to the community college and find things I can study.
Absolutely. Lifelong learning. My dad was still learning when he passed away at 89. He still was, doing things to learn. So absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually heard that early retirement leads to a higher incidence of onset of dementia. So
exactly. Yeah. Like keep coming out.
I'm not going to be that woman. So,
exactly.
Stephanie, thanks for still hanging in here. We see that Stephanie's still on here. So,
okay.
This is recorded and it will be included on our website for the other members to see.
Okay, great. Would I be able to get a copy of that as well?
Sure. Yeah, it's just the audio. I'm sorry, it's not a video.
Oh, okay.
Audio.
Okay, great. That's
and
fine.
We'll make that available.
Okay,
thank
wonderful.
you, Teri.
Okay, well, thank you, Stephanie and Lois, and it's been great being here. I really enjoyed this.
Well, thank you for being with us.
Hopefully, my passion for this comes through.
Oh, it
Well, it definitely does come through. Actually, at my school, we're gonna have a discussion about loneliness today at my school, and so a lot of what you talked about really resonates along with that topic. So
yeah,
yep,
absolutely.
And
absolutely.
I thought it was interesting. The one program you had. So, do all the affiliates do the Latinx program?
No, it's brand new.
Okay.
We are piloting it in Illinois among, I think, 6 affiliates. I'm
Okay.
not as involved in that, but I think it's 6 affiliates that are going to be rolling it out. Where are you at, Stephanie?
We're located in Malta, Illinois, which is it's 10 minutes by NIU.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So we're not far from DeKalb. So
okay. So we have an affiliate, we call it NAMI KDK. So it's DeKalb, Kendall, and Kane counties. I never can remember them. I don't think they are part of the pilot, but that would be the NAMI that serves your area.
All right. Well, that's good to know. We may check into that. And
okay.
But it was a very nice talk. Thank you.
Great. Well, you're very welcome. It was my pleasure. All right.
All right.
A wrap.
It is a wrap.
Okay.
And
okay. Thank you so much.
Appreciate
okay.
it.
Bye-bye.